Hello everyone. Shall I put the camera on? Yeah, let's put the camera on. Even though I look a bit rough and hungover from yesterday. So I'm just going to do a really quick update here actually, because I've made a few changes and I'm not sure exactly what since the last stream anyway, but also we're having the drop that we wanted. I'm going to probably update entries and things tomorrow, but just a quick one to show where we're at right now. So the old majors, EOS, Litecoin, Ripple and BCH. Like all of these, I didn't really have happy long entries on anyway for me to know there's confluence across the market for a bounce on everything. Obviously Bitcoin's trying to bounce at this point, but so far it's been pretty weak. So we just need to see if we're going to get some follow-up. What I am seeing on all, or not all, but most things is that we're going to make new 2-day supply. So you can see EOS, we had the 2-day here, it didn't get tested. Let me zoom out quickly. And also we've made new weekly supply on a lot of things. So check all your charts for 2-day weekly supply. A lot of them still have this chop with the 4 and 5 days, so I've still got a lot of those in, but we're going to make a new 2-day supply, and in some cases it'll be strong, in some cases it'll be weak. So in most cases I didn't get the bounces I wanted for shorts, at least on the old and new majors that I posted for you guys. Let me just, sorry, my studio is giving me a suggestion. My audio stream's current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate. We recommend that you use an audio stream of 128. I have no idea what that means, so let's hope the audio is okay. Anyway, back to this. So yeah, I had this 2-day at the top here on EOS that didn't get tested. I've got a 2-day here that didn't get tested, and now we're going to have another 2-day. So that's why I need to think it through, and I don't really want to start throwing in just new alerts on the new 2 days before I've A, seen them confirmed, and B, sort of thought about like what's actually happening here. So you can see on EOS, like, yes, we've had a breakdown, but similar to Bitcoin, we're just coming into, and Ether probably more than Bitcoin, but we're just coming into deeper into demand, and the start of where we were previously. So not necessarily at a point I want to be shorting still. A lot of the alts are going to be different, but this is a no. I'm okay with leaving the short there for the moment, assuming potentially, because one of my considerations on Bitcoin is if Bitcoin's likely to make a 2-day supply as well, and I suspect that Bitcoin will run through that 2-day supply at a minimum. Bitcoin could still just go up again, but at a minimum run through its immediate 2-day supply into what now I think on Bitcoin is a 4 or 5 day above, or even the daily all the way at the top, and then reject possibly quite hard to then reconfirm the 2-day supply off a swing failure. Could be wrong, but that's my sense at the moment on Bitcoin. And therefore we might see similar on these alts, so i.e. we get a close down here, and rather than just going up and rejecting straight off the 2-day supply, we run through it but then reject quite hard afterwards. Could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'd be looking for from what I've seen so far. So that's EOS. BCH, no new weekly on this, I don't think. No, it's just still a choppy mess in the middle. And again, we've still got this 1 month demand here, which wasn't a good one, but is still 1 month. So again, not overly confident with shorting this immediately, but again, it's going to make a local 2-day supply, a weak 2-day supply in this case, because it's not really closing significantly below and hasn't wicked below the previous wick either. So again, I'll leave that for now and leave the one at the top for now in case we get the bigger bounce, but also the uptrend is still, this is a correction of a correction. So long down here, so if we get these bigger drops for the kind of confidence I would want across the market, which I do expect to happen, it's just a question of what happens beforehand, then obviously Bitcoin's going to probably need to drop quite significantly for these to play out. So yeah, nothing new on BCH other than the 2-day supply. Ripple does have a new weekly. So this already had a weekly supply, which was why I was doing all the short buyers before. And now a new weekly supply looked like it tapped off the bottom, but actually only tapped off a 12-hour just below it. So again, the aggressive short on this would be at the start of weekly supply, but at the moment I'm going to leave it higher until A, I've again had a chance to think about it, but also B, the problem I have on, on some of the ones that I have weekly, I've thought the same. I think it's the same on MATIC, for example. We've still got this 3-month or much higher timeframes demand in place. So I don't want to. So for example, on this, we've got this 3-month demand. It's not a strong 3-month, which I've explained previously, but it is a 3-month demand. So I don't really, while I would normally easily short a weekly supply, I would rather see that break structure first, or at least come deeper into the 3-month demand. And then, whether or not, so for example, if we come all the way down here, then I'd be more comfortable shorting that weekly supply on the premise that it would probably have some sort of reaction, even if it then goes up again, because the 3-month is the bigger picture play out. But at the moment, again, we're a bit too close. We haven't closed significantly below. So we did have a good entry off at least for a scalp anyway, off the previous bounce. That was one of the ones that actually bounced reasonably well, although it looks small in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, so actually this isn't going to make a 2-day supply, or is it? Oh yeah, it's going to make a tiny 2-day supply at the weekly level, so it's kind of interesting. So you can watch around here if you're trading this. See if you get a reaction just immediately off 55 if it tests there. But again, I'm leaving the alert higher for now. And finally, Litecoin, which with hindsight, this was stupid. But I put in, I've mentioned earlier in the stream earlier, I did put in this entry on the daily demand here. But with hindsight, it was stupid because I knew there was a 2-week supply there. So I have no idea why I did that when it was just coming off the 2-week supply. I think at the time it was looking reasonably strong. On the lower time frames at least, and but then subsequently no, it's well, I mean, it's still in the daily demand there, but it wasn't a good. So it was a risky and not high probability long entry there. So and I said I'd stay away from Litecoin as well because I don't like while it's still in 2-month demand. We've had multiple tests on it, and the most recent one, when the whole market was moving, hasn't moved that far at all. I think I had a bit of hope that maybe this is going to be an outlier and get up to here. Oh, and I think one of my other reasons was that Grayscale was stronger on this. I haven't looked at Grayscale today to see what it's done, but that was one of the reasons. But it was a poor long, and it's obviously now coming down a bit more heavily. Is it going to make a 2-day? So it may make a 2-day supply as well. Again, it's going to be tight, and it's still in, I think, a 5-day demand. So yeah, leaving that one alone for the moment, and might consider it again later once I see a bit more, but it's just messy. So those are the old majors, nothing too new and exciting to report. So Ripple's probably the most tradable one, just because it's got a little bit more space, and it moves a little bit more, and it has a bit cleaner demand and supply to be looking at, and the others are just a bit meh. Even EOS actually isn't horrendous from a trading perspective. Ripple and EOS are probably the two, if you want a trader, that are cleaner than the others. Moving on to some of the new majors. So we had BNB and Link, which have been the two more bullish of all the new majors, have obviously come down today. Lost my mouse, one moment. And we're back. BNB has yet again front run the long entry I had here, and although it has broken this sort of meme trend line, I don't really like that. I don't know why I have that in there. Take that out. But again, it's still sort of fighting with a local range, but it had, and both Link and BNB had made sort of local demand. Let me just go out on BNB. So it has got a weekly demand in here. Again, it's not a great one, but not something I want to be shorting. Rather look for longs on this at the moment. And I think I've said previously as well, like, this has broken the trend line, is something that could be an outlier and an anomaly and run on its own. But I would have rather it have been a bit stronger on the close than it has been. But can still watch for longs on this one, I think. Just be careful. So again, it's going to create a 2-day supply most likely today. It's not going to be a strong one, but just watch yourself in this zone unless it bounces in the next couple of hours, and then the possibility of a long may or may not happen if it comes back down into this zone, but it just missed my alert, and still just doesn't quite want to, you know, again, when it just misses my alert so many times, it's trying to find another level of support rather than the zone I'm looking at, then there's a much higher chance it's going to go through the zone. But again, on this, like if we're going to get a bigger drop and for market confluence, it's got quite a long way to go. Link, similar really, this hasn't created a weekly demand, and it still has the weekly supply, which is potentially playing out, although it's come quite a long way into it. The last high, unfortunately, also did not reach my 4-hour zone at the top that I was looking at. It does have a sort of weak 3-day demand in here, but again, it's all very rangy. It's not a solid demand, and obviously it's gone deeper in it because the whole market's going down. It's at this stage not going to create a 2-day supply, but might do if it closes below that, but again, not going to be a solid one. But this is one of the stronger ones, and as I've said, I think the Bitcoin pair I quite liked on this, so not something I want to short either. You can short a break of the trend line if you really want to, but yeah, not something I'm looking at for shorts at the moment. I still prefer this to the long side if it gives something. Could, you know, if you do want to short it and you're more bearish on it than I am, there is a nice 8-hour supply thrown in there. Annoying it missed the top there anyway, that's for sure. Yeah, nothing new on that I want to add. And again, much lower for any proper long entries. So if like I say, if these dudes continue to drop, overall all the alts, not just these specific ones, then I've got another axis on there. I was comparing it to Bitcoin for some reason. But if they do continue to drop, then they have a long way to drop, and that makes me more concerned for what Bitcoin would do in order for that to happen to the alts. So MATIC is one of the ones that's created a weekly supply, but it's one of the ones that I really didn't want to short because it has this 6-month demand. And it's not a strong 6-month demand, but again, still a 6-month demand. So I'm still wanting longs on this. But now being conscious, we have weekly supply. I think this was the one I did add a short to. I think I had no shorts on it before, and I haven't added an aggressive short at this weekly here. But I think I did add one. I think there's a whole mixture of stuff up here. So we have a 5-day, but which got locally tested. Then I think there's also a 4-day now that's slightly lower. 3-day, nothing so new, and 2-day. So I think I've added alert for sort of 2-day / 4-day supply. But again, that would assume it comes through now. It's going to make a 2-day supply here, and it's going to assume it comes back through that. And again, like a lot of the others, this is now at 1, 2, 3 hits on demand, or more if you count every single wick. But it's a 6-month demand, so like I say, not something I want to be shorting right now. Would rather try and pick up longs, even if it goes significantly deeper into the 6-month demand. I would still want to say I'm long biased on this. I can't remember what the BTC pair was doing to comment on that at this point. ADA, this is one of the ones that had a significantly further it can fall. It does have obviously a monthly level there that I've got there, so it could pick up support on something like this. There's a wick there and there's a monthly level there, so it could pick up support higher. But again, this is the zone I was looking at, 3-month flip level, and there's a 3-day demand just inside. That's where I would prefer to look for longs from. So this already had a weekly supply, which it rejected and got that short entry previously. It didn't create a new weekly, but I've just drawn the level in anyway. Had a 5-day, rejected off that. 4-day, didn't quite tap that, which is the same level as the 5-day, but again, this becomes harder with so many zones. There's no new 3-day, or the 2-day may convert into a 3-day, but again, this didn't quite reach the short entry here, and is going to create a new 2-day supply. This one is one that maybe I'd be more inclined to look for a more aggressive short, just because I think support's poorer on this than all the others, or at least ones we looked at so far. So yeah, if you want to try and look for an aggressive short in here, that's a possibility. But again, I'm just going to leave the alert there for now until I see a bit more, particularly of what's going to happen with Bitcoin. All the other zones have been tested except that one, and then this immediate one that's going to be put in shortly. So that's all of those. So again, the summary of that is MATIC is the one with the weekly supply, BNB is one with weekly demand, poor demand but still. But yeah, for reasons explained already, don't want to short MATIC because of the 6 monthly demand. ADA is the best probably for a short of all these. And then Link and BNB still continue to look for longs on them if it presents themselves, although they're obviously looking quite nasty today. That doesn't mean they're not going to pick up lower levels. And then just be conscious on BNB of that 2-day supply. And then the final set of new majors. DOT. This did actually have a 3-month level here, and I kind of don't know why I didn't. I don't know if I had a reason for not having commented or alerted it before. I think, you know, I mean, it is offset and it's a big one, so that might have been why. I can't remember if I had specifically had a reason. This could pick up support here, but my alert has been lower on the 3-week. I mean, maybe there was more confidence with fibs and things like that. One, the fibs are significantly lower anyway. And also because it's coming out of monthly supply. This is another one that's created a new weekly supply. So it's still in weekly demand just by a hair, but it also has a new, I'm going to delete that because I think it's not going to last anyway. It's got a new weekly supply, so again, this is one that I could potentially put a more aggressive short entry in, but again, it's quite a large zone, and there's a 5-day up here that hasn't been tested, 4-day as well. And then that 2-day that I've previously had alerted, so again, going to leave that alone, just potentially, just leaving them slightly more conservative at this point, because there is still, and part of the reason for that as well is there's still a distinct possibility that Bitcoin's going to do a proper bounce on demand, and you know, Bitcoin hasn't broken macro structure yet, so there is still hope of Bitcoin making a new high and 48k not having been the end of that. And if that's the case, then these are quite slow retracements, and then we could still see these break again. This is somewhere that you could potentially look for a long on this, which is another reason I don't want to put in an aggressive short, a too aggressive short. So keep an eye on that on the lower time frames. Other than that, if we get a bigger drop, wait for down there. Sol has basically played out exactly how I thought, but slightly less aggressively than I thought, and hasn't obviously gone back for the retest because fuck my life. Anyway, am I allowed to swear on YouTube? I think I can. Anyway, there's no weekly supply, but it is now today has come significantly below the weekly level. So we had the 5-day up there, which is where I looked for the original short, and then I put for a retest on that 5-day after it broke the trend line. So we had the trend line break entry. May create a new 4-day there. Also has a 3-day there already, and that's where it's just tapped off today before this drop. Is not going to make a 2-day because the structure is a bit different to the others, nor a daily. So again, still leaving that up there, but I suspect this is not going to come back until it gets down into demand. And that's where I want to be looking for longs. Or having said that, I mean, I guess people love swing failures, so there is no reason why it may not swing fail here. It's possible the alternate hypothesis on this is that we get the swing failure here and then it goes up and takes out these highs that I potentially wanted before. So we could have a more messy move where rather than that having been taking the trend line above before faking out down, maybe this is actually a bigger fake out down before taking the stops above and then the drop. So there is the possibility of that. But again, leaving the alert up at, get rid of the line, leaving the alert up at that 5 day for a retest again, you know, and if for no other reason than just check how it reacts within this 5 day on the second hit. But again, I don't want to long this here, you know, it's one thing having a stop hunt at those lows, but I need a stop hunt to be into something, and the stop hunt isn't really, a bit like Bitcoin having just bounced on CME level. There's, you know, a 12-hour or a 4-hour demand here to the left on Bitcoin, but it's not something I would want to long. And the same applies to Sol. Like, there's something down on the 4-hour now, and there's nothing here. There's probably a 2-hour or an hourly or something in there, but yeah, you can keep an eye on it and try and long on the basis of that, but it's not a solid zone for me. Near. Oh, actually, maybe I'll be able to actually do a short stream for a change. Near has a weekly supply, and again, I did add a new entry on that. 5 days, so I already had the 5 day up here, which didn't get tested, but again, it's just messy. It's now got a 4 day below that, what wasn't tested. So there's just a lot going on this as far as possible levels, but it does have that new daily supply there, and then the weekly at the same level. So, and it's dropped fairly significantly, so I feel more comfortable looking for shorts on that. This is the only one that's actually really close to a possibly good long entry. So again, need to see the reaction here, because that could take it straight back through up through all these short entries. Again, can't recall what the Bitcoin pair looked like on this. Probably should look at that quickly. Hold on, let me. Because yeah, so looking over here, which I assume you can see just about. There's yeah, this has dropped 8%, like significantly more than most of the others. Or Sol's close 7% on the US dollar pair, MATIC 4.6, BNB less 3, and ADA 4. So okay, so the BTC pair still has quite a lot further it can go. So again, just be slightly wary of longing immediately here. Preferably would have liked the confluence of having the BTC pair hitting at the same time. But thinking about that, having said that, if Bitcoin bounces and it just bounces more than near does, then this can still drop and still have the US dollar pair go up. So the confidence doesn't have to be there, but that could possibly mean that that drops lower if Bitcoin's going to continue going down. So yeah, let me think. So if Bitcoin goes down, and then we need near BTC to go down more. We need near US dollar to go down more in order for near BTC to go down. So we don't really want, so the scenario for this to bounce would be that Bitcoin goes up. Bitcoin has to bounce like around the time this bounces, and then it has to bounce more. Bitcoin has to bounce more than near in order for this to continue to fall and for that to work out, which is obviously a distinct possibility, but also makes me feel more comfortable having that short entry in there as well, actually. So yeah, that was the only new one there. And then finally, Atom was the other one like MATIC that I was reluctant to look for shorts on until significantly higher because of the 6-month demand. But again, like MATIC is now dropping deeper inside it. Same applies, don't really want to look for shorts on this right now. I mean, it's highly possible it flips that 6-month level. It's not a good one, but just not something I'm not willing to short into. So yeah, I mean, the preferred entry of this is going to be a lot deeper, is down at the 3 week at the bottom there on the higher time frame, but doesn't mean it's not going to bounce up here. Didn't create weekly supply. Has a 5 day that was tested, 4 day the same. So has a local 3 day, but not a good one. But again, it's going to have that 2 day, and this actually would be a decent 2 day to look for a short, but also didn't quite test the 2 day up here. But again, like I say, I'm not going to short this when it's coming into 6-month demand. Again, let's see how the BTC pair looks on this. Yeah, I was more bearish on this, and I do want this lower as well. So I don't know, maybe we are going to see that significant bounce on Bitcoin, but a much less significant bounce on the alts. we'll see anyway, just hypotheses at this point. But yeah, so that's it. The couple of new entries in there for you. I think NEAR was one of them. I think all the others you've had from previously. NEAR on that layout. MATIC was the new one on this layout. And leaving ADA as it is. And Ripple. Ripple, I think I already had that one. But yeah, not adding anything on the new 2-day supplies yet until I see like the closes and how strong a bounce we get off Bitcoin, or if we get any bounce off Bitcoin at all. So I hope that's some help. Any questions?